Human Rights in Islam Part 2. Rights of other prophets and messengers. A Muslim's belief in Islam is not complete or acceptable unless he declares belief in the truth of all the previous prophets and messengers of God. A Muslim must believe that all the previous prophets and messengers were sent for specific groups of people during a specific time. Whereas the message of Islam is universal and for all times and places until the Day of Judgment. God says in the Quran, "Sad face the messenger has believed in what was revealed to him from his Lord, and, so have, the believers. All of them have believed in Allah and His angels and His books and His messengers, saying, we make no distinction between any of His messengers. And they say, we hear and we obey. We seek your forgiveness, our Lord, and to you is the final destination." 2:285. Muslims are required to deliver the message of Islam to others, but never to force or compel others to accept it, as God, the Exalted, says in the Quran, "Sad face, let there be no compulsion in religion." 256. Rights of Parents. The rights of parents include respect, love and obedience. This obedience is conditional in that it does not contradict obedience to the commands of God and His Messenger. It involves care and kindness to both parents, and provision of necessities for elder parents. Humility and respect to both parents equally is an obligation, and any arrogance or insolence is forbidden. Patience and perseverance are required when serving parents, no matter what the circumstances. God says in the Quran, "Sad face, and your Lord has decreed that you worship none but Him, and that you be kind to your parents. Whether one or both of them attain old age in your life, say not to them even the mildest word of disrespect, nor abuse them. And address them with kind words." 17:23, the Messenger of God instructed us saying, God's pleasure, on someone, is based on the pleasure of his parents. The wrath of God is based upon the anger of his parents. Tirmidhi. Both parents are entitled to this right even if they are not Muslims, so long as they do not command their children to do any act of disobedience to God. Asma, the daughter of Abu Bakr, said, "My mother came to visit me while still not a Muslim. I asked God's Prophet concerning her visit, and how to treat her while visiting me, and said, my mother is eager to visit with me. Should I, or should I not, extend my courtesy, as a host, to her?" He said, "Yes, extend her your courtesy." Muslim. He replied, "Your mother." The man asked, "Who is next worthy person of my companionship?" God's Messenger replied, "Your mother." The man asked, "Who is next?" God's Messenger replied, "Your mother." The man asked, "Who is next?" God's Messenger replied, "Your father." And in another version there is the ending "your father," and then the next nearest and next nearest. Bukhari, Hadith No. 2227 and Muslim, Hadith number 2584. God's Messenger assigned the mother with a threefold portion of the right of companionship. The father, in comparison, receives only one share. This is due to the fact that mothers suffer more hardships during pregnancy and during the delivery and care of their children. God says in the Quran, "Sad face, and we have enjoined on man kindness to his parents. His mother carried him with hardship and gave birth to him with hardship." 46:15. This in no way demeans the rights of the father, since the Prophet said, "No son can repay the right of his father, unless he finds him a slave, buys him and then emancipates him." Reported by Muslim number 1510. Rights of husband towards his wife. A husband has the right of ultimate authority of the home management since he is responsible for the family and is accountable for all aspects of their maintenance. His leadership should be with justice, patience and wisdom. As God says in the glorious Quran, "Sad face, men are the protectors and maintainers of women, because God has given one more than the other, and because they spend, to support them, from their means." 434. The main reason for this added degree of responsibility is that men are given a higher portion of the inheritance as a result of their financial obligations. A wife is required to obey the commands and instructions of her husband as long as these do not involve any act of disobedience to God's command and the Prophet's instructions. Aisha, the wife of the Prophet, questioned him, "Whose right is the greatest on a woman?" He replied, "That of her husband." The messenger was asked, "Whose right is the greatest on a man?" He replied, "That of his mother." Al-Hakam number 7244. A wife must not demand from her husband things that he cannot afford, that he is not capable to produce, or tasks beyond his ability. A wife is required to protect the children and the reputation of her husband by protecting herself and being completely chaste. She should be a trustworthy guardian of his wealth. She should not leave her husband's home without his prior knowledge, nor allow any person who her husband dislikes to enter his home. This is to protect the honor and harmony of the family, as instructed by the Messenger of God. The best of women is the one, who, if you look at her you will be pleased with her, if you request her, to perform any lawful action, she will obey you. And if you are absent she will protect and preserve your wealth and honor. Ibn Majah, Hadith No. 1862, Rights of Wife Towards Her Husband. The rights of wives concerning their husbands are many and may be summarized as follows. Dowry. A wife is entitled to receive a dowry from her husband at the time of marriage, and a marriage contract is void without it. The dowry is not to be forfeited, but after the completion of a marriage contract she may forfeit her right, as God says in the Quran, "Sad face and give women, upon marriage, their dowry graciously. But if they give up willingly to you anything of it, then take it in satisfaction and ease." 4:4. Financial support. A husband is required to provide, within his means and limits, all the essential and basic requirements of his wife, children and entire household. God, the Exalted, says in the Quran, "Sad face, let a man of wealth spend from his wealth, and he whose provision is restricted, let him spend from what Allah has given him." Allah does not charge a soul except, according to, what he has given it. Allah will bring about, after hardship, ease. 65:7. To encourage generosity towards the wives, Islam has considered this financial support as charity, which is rewarded greatly by God. The Prophet said to Sa'ad ibn Abi Waqqas, "No amount you spend on your family seeking reward from God, but that he will reward you, even if it is a bite of food that you put in your wife's mouth." Bukhari, Hadith No. 3721. A wife has a right to take the required amount from her husband's property for herself and her children without her husband's knowledge if he spends miserly on them, according to the hadith wherein Hind bint Utbah said, "O Messenger of God, verily Abu Sufyan is a miser and doesn't give me enough for myself and my child except what I take from his wealth without his knowledge," so he said, "Take what is reasonably enough for you and your son." Bukhari, Hadith number 5049. Companionship and intimate relationship. One of the most important rights of a wife is to secure from her husband a satisfactory level of intimate relationship and a fair amount of time with him. This right of the wife and family members must be fully maintained, since a wife needs an affectionate husband to take care of her and fulfill her basic needs. As stated by the Prophet, "The best of you are those who are the best to their wives." Tirmidhi, verified as authentic. Protection of all the secrets of the wife. A husband must not disclose any of his wife's deficiencies or shortcomings, keeping all what he sees and hears from his wife as a secret that should not ever be disclosed. The intimate relationship between a husband and wife in Islam is cherished and protected. Marital relationships are sacred relationships according to Islam, as we read in the instructions of God's Messenger. One of the worst circumstances in the sight of God on the Day of Judgment is that of a man who will have an intimate relationship with his wife, and then spread the secrets of his spouse to the public. Muslim, Hadith No. 1437, Equality and Fairness. The husband who is married to more than one wife must provide equally to all of his wives, offering them the same or comparable housing conditions and clothing. He is to spend equal time with each one of them. Any injustice in this regard is strictly prohibited, as the Messenger of God said, "He who has two wives and does not treat them both equally will appear on the Day of Judgment while he is half paralyzed." Nisa'i, 7 hours 63 minutes. Fair and kind treatment. a husband must extend just treatment to his wife and household. A husband must demonstrate care, kindness and solve any problem within his means, while being gentle and forgiving with his wife, seeking the pleasure of God in both worlds. A good Muslim husband should consult with his wife concerning their life and future needs and plans. He is required to secure and provide for his wife and household all means of a peaceful environment at home and outside. The Messenger of God said, "Those believers who have the most complete faith who possess the best of character, and the best among you are those who are the best to their wives." Reported by Bukhari, Hadith No. 2330, Protection and Preservation. By all the abilities available, a husband must not place or expose his wife or family members to any immoral situation or evil environment. This is based on the instructions of the verse of the glorious Quran. He must protect the private wealth and property of his wife and must not use any of her personal funds or possessions without her prior approval. He must not engage in any transaction concerning his wife's finances, without her consent. Rights of children. The rights of the children are numerous, beginning with the entitlement to be given honorable names. The Prophet said, "Verily you will be called by your names and your fathers' names on the day of judgment, so give yourselves good names." Abu Dawud, number 4948. Their rights include provision of all the necessities of life like affordable housing, lawful food, beneficial education and proper upbringing. The Messenger of God said, "It is a sufficient sin to lose and waste those whom you are obligated to support, i.e. by not providing proper care and upbringing." Abu Dawud, No. 1692, parents should teach them good moral behavior and protect them against bad habits such as lying, cheating, deception, selfishness, etc. The Messenger of God said, "Each one of you is a shepherd and is responsible for those under his care." Bukhari, No. 853 in Muslim, number 1829. Children are entitled to receive just and equal treatment without being preferred one over another in terms of dealings and treatment, gifts, grants, inheritance etc. Unfair treatment to the children may result in bad behavior towards either or both parents and the other siblings. Nu'man b. Bashir said that my father offered me a gift from his wealth, so my mother Amra bint Ra said, "I would not agree to that until the Messenger of God witnesses it." So my father went and asked him to witness my gift. The Messenger of God asked, "Did you offer the same to all of your children?" The man replied, "No." God's Messenger said to him, "Fear God and be just in dealing with your children." So my father returned and placed back that gift. Muslim, Hadith number 1623. Rights of relatives. Relatives have specific rights entitling them to special attention, visits and support. A wealthier Muslim is obliged to assist his or her relatives, with priority given to the nearest in kin, and then in order of nearness in relationship. A Muslim supports his siblings and relatives in times of need and shares their concerns. In the Quran, we find the saying of God the Almighty, "Sad face, O mankind. Be dutiful to your Lord, who created you from a single person, and from him he created his wife, and from them he created many men and women. And fear God through whom you demand your mutual rights and do not cut the family ties. Surely God is ever an all-watcher over you." 4:1. Islam encourages a Muslim to be kind to his relatives even when they are unkind to him, and asks him to continue his relations even when they cut them off. Boycotting relatives and family members falls into the category of a major sin in Islam, as God says in the glorious Quran, "So would you perhaps, if you turned away, cause corruption on earth and sever your ties of relationship? Such are the men whom God has cursed, so he deafened them and blinded their vision." 47:22.